I recently landed a great job at a well-known company in Willow Creek, but it was far from my home. For the first week, I managed by traveling from home every day, but soon realized I couldn't do this every day. Finally, I decided to move closer to my workplace. I began looking for a place to stay. I had never lived away from my family before. This was my first time and I felt uneasy, but I had no other option. I couldn't travel daily. I spoke to brokers in the area, and one broker who seemed genuine showed me some potential places. All of them were quite expensive. As this was my first job, my salary wasn't very high, so I couldn't afford the expensive places. I asked the broker to show me a cheaper place. The broker thought for a moment and said, "I have one place, but I don't know if it's a good idea to stay there." I reassured him, "Don't worry, I'll manage. Please take me there." The broker took me to the place. I was expecting a cheap, old place since it was cheaper. However, when I arrived, I was shocked. The place was very well maintained with good rooms, much better than any of the other places I had seen. I asked the broker if he was sure the price was low. The broker assured me that he knew the owner and would negotiate for me. The place had 3 floors with 6 rooms on each floor. Each room could accommodate 2 girls. After some negotiation, I got a room on the 3rd floor, room number 306, at a very affordable price. I moved in and began to settle down. As I moved in, other girls stared at me, curious about the newcomer. I ignored them and focused on settling into my new room. I spent the first day cleaning and organizing my space. Soon, night fell and I prepared to sleep, planning to go to work the next day. My routine involved spending the day at the office, and in the evenings, I would hang out with friends before returning to my place around 8 to 9 p.m. For days passed, and I had settled into my routine. One evening, I heard a noise at my door. I opened it to find another girl standing outside, who announced she would be my roommate. I was happy to have company. The girl introduced herself as Rachel. Like me, Rachel had a job and a similar schedule. Rachel often returned late, around 11 to 11:30 p.m., due to her hectic job. Despite the late hours, we became good friends. We would occasionally explore the nearby park and spend most of our time in our room, talking and sharing stories. One day, while I was walking in the nearby park, some girls from the same building approached me and asked, "Are you the girl from room number 306 on the 3rd floor?" I responded, "Yes, I live there. What happened?" The girls said, "Listen, sister, we're telling you for your own good. Leave that room as soon as possible." I was confused and asked, "What do you mean? Why are you telling me to leave the room? Is everything okay?" The girls replied, "We can't say much, but it would be best for you to leave that room as soon as you can." They then walked away, leaving me bewildered. I wondered why these strangers would come up to me out of nowhere and tell me to leave my room. Were they joking, trying to scare me, or was there some truth to it? That night, when Rachel returned to the room, I told her what had happened. Rachel asked, "Who were those girls and why did they say that?" I replied, "I don't know. It was my first interaction with them. They live on the lower floor, but I don't know them and they don't know me. Why would they say something like that? Is there something about this room that we don't know?" Rachel, tired from her day, said, "Forget it, Sarah. I'm exhausted. This is nonsense. They were probably just messing with you. Don't worry about it. Get some sleep. We have work tomorrow." With that, Rachel went to sleep and I decided to do the same. Later that night, around 2 a.m., a commotion broke out in the dorm. I woke up to the sound of people shouting and ran outside to see what was happening. A crowd had gathered near room 203. I woke Rachel and said, "Come, let's see what's going on." Rachel, too tired, said, "Just go to sleep. We have work tomorrow." Curious, I went to room 203 alone. There was a large crowd of girls. I asked one of them what had happened. They said that something terrible had happened to the girl living in room 203. When I entered the room, I saw that the girl who had warned me the previous day was covered in blood and shivering. She wasn't saying anything, just staring blankly. The dorm owners soon arrived. They asked the girl what had happened and if they should call her parents. The girl started crying and said, "She was here. I saw her with my own eyes. She was standing right in front of me. She's real. She's here. The girls around the room fell silent, looking at each other with fear. I noticed that everyone's faces were pale with a strange fear. Some girls began praying, while others ran back to their rooms. The owners assured the girl, saying, "Everything is fine. You can stay with us tonight." They took the girl with them, trying to calm the other girls down. "Everything is fine. Go back to your rooms and get some rest," they said. As I was heading back to my room, I asked one of the girls, "What happened here? Can you give me some context? Why is everyone acting like they've seen a ghost?" The girl explained, "For months ago, a girl who was an intern at a nearby office lived here. She was always very stressed from her hectic job and had to work long hours, often coming back to the dorm late at night. There was a rule that no one could enter the dorm after 9 p.m., but she always came back around 11 or 11:30 p.m. She was always reprimanded by the guards. One night, we all heard a loud noise coming from room 306. When we rushed to see what had happened, we found her lifeless body. She had died. The whole dorm was in chaos. Eventually, everyone moved on, but now it seems like her spirit is back, haunting this place. But one night, some girls complained about hearing strange noises. They reported hearing the main gate open around 11:30 p.m., followed by the sound of someone entering and walking up to the third floor, stopping at the farthest room, room number 306. This happened 3 or 4 times, instilling fear in the girls who knew what had happened in room 306. They reported it to the owners, and soon the whole dorm was abuzz with rumors. Initially, everyone laughed it off, thinking it was just a joke. But as more people began to hear the noises, the belief grew that something was wrong with room 306. It was believed that the spirit of the girl who had died still haunted the room, coming back every night at 11:30 p.m. The fear grew so much that the owners decided to lock the room permanently. When I heard this story, I was terrified because room 306 was where I was living. I asked the girl who told me the story what the name of the girl who had died was. The girl replied, "Her name was Rachel." I felt the ground slip from under my feet. Rachel, my roommate, who came back every night at 11:30 p.m. from her hectic job, was the same girl. How was it possible that I had been living with a ghost? I was so scared that I spent the entire night with the girl who had told me the story. The next morning, I went to the owners and told them everything. The owners were equally shocked, as they had thought the stories were just figments of the girl's imagination. The owner, a kind woman, felt terrible for me and apologized profusely. They promised never to let anyone stay in that room again and waived my rent for that month, also returning my previous month's rent. The owners asked me not to tell anyone about the incident, fearing that no one would want to stay in their dorm if the story got out. I understood their position and agreed. I took the money and moved to a better place. I vowed never to make the mistake of choosing a cheap place without knowing the reasons behind its low cost. Though nothing happened to me after that day, and I never saw Rachel again, the memories haunted me. I couldn't believe I had lived with a ghost, thinking of Rachel as my friend. I struggled to distinguish reality and feared that anyone I met could be a ghost. It would take me time to overcome the trauma. My name is Emmy, and I was searching for a PG in Havenbrook, Maine. My job had recently relocated me here from Boston. This was my second job. Initially, I tried to find a PG online and, after some searching, I found one that seemed perfect, reasonably priced and close to my office. I contacted the PG owner who lived in New York. He provided me with the number of the caretaker, John, who lived in the PG. John was helpful and agreed to show me around. The PG was a 3-story building with 4 rooms on each floor. John and his family lived in one of the rooms on the ground floor, while the other rooms were occupied by students and professionals. John mentioned a strict rule. The main doors would lock at 11 p.m., and anyone coming late had to inform him. The environment seemed friendly, and the people I met were welcoming. Feeling positive, I decided to move in the next day. Months passed, and I settled into my new routine. One night, while reading, I suddenly felt a drop in temperature. A foul, rotting smell filled my room. My head started to ache, and the pain grew unbearable. I called my friends in the next room, but by the time they arrived, I had collapsed. They found me unconscious and called John, who quickly brought a doctor from a nearby clinic. The doctor treated me, and I regained consciousness, but I couldn't speak. Felt as if my face was paralyzed. I tried to scream and move my lips, but no sound came out. It was terrifying. I was crying uncontrollably. John and my friends stayed with me all night. John assured me, "Don't worry, Emmy. We'll go to a good hospital first thing in the morning and get you the best treatment." The doctors who had treated me the previous night had arranged for me to be taken to a good hospital in the morning for further tests. Everyone hoped that I would recover soon. My friends had taken the day off to accompany me, and John, the caretaker, got ready early and said, "Emmy, let's go to the hospital. But first, let's visit the church and seek blessings." As we were about to enter the church, I suddenly fainted. My friends quickly carried me back to the PG. When I regained consciousness, they decided to take me to the hospital immediately. One of my friends, a devotee of St. Michael, handed me a picture of the saint and said, "Don't worry, St. Michael will protect you." But as soon as I held the picture, I felt an intense anger and threw it away. Everyone was shocked. I had never been aggressive, and throwing a holy picture was out of character for me. They thought I was in shock and trauma due to my condition. They took me to the hospital, where the doctors said they needed to run some tests. Until then, they allowed me to go back to the PG. That night, I slept in my friend's room, not wanting to be alone. Around midnight, my friend felt the same strange sensations I had experienced. The room's temperature dropped, and a foul, rotting smell filled the air. She woke up to find me missing. Panicked, she searched the bathroom and the entire room but couldn't find me. She called John, the caretaker, and told him I was missing. Everyone rushed to search for me, fearing I might harm myself. They called out my name and looked everywhere but couldn't find me. Suddenly, a loud scream echoed through the PG. It was the security guard. Everyone ran to him, and he was terrified, unable to speak. They asked him what had happened, and he pointed towards the gate. There I was, shaking the large iron gate violently and laughing maniacally. The gate was locked after 11 p.m., and it was a massive gate with a heavy lock. I was shaking it with such force that it seemed like I would break it. Everyone was stunned. Just that morning, I had been too weak to stand, and now I had the strength to shake a massive iron gate. People tried to restrain me, but I was difficult to control. John tied my hands and feet to prevent me from hurting myself. I started banging my head against the wall, laughing like a madwoman. My head was bleeding, but I kept laughing. Everyone was terrified. John realized that this behavior was not normal and suspected that a spirit had possessed me. The next morning, John brought Father Thomas, the father of the nearby church. As soon as Father Thomas entered the PG, he felt a strong negative energy. He confirmed that a spirit had possessed me. Father Thomas arrived and performed an exorcism on me. After being silent for 2 days, I suddenly started speaking. Felt like someone else was speaking through me. Father Thomas asked, "Who are you? And what are you doing in this girl's body? What do you want?" I suddenly fell to the ground and started crying, then began telling my story. I revealed that where the PG stands now, there used to be a grand house. An elderly woman lived there with her son and daughter-in-law. As time passed, the son had to move to New York for his job. The son and daughter-in-law shifted to New York, leaving the elderly woman alone in the grand house. Over time, the elderly woman's eyesight began to fail, and she became ill. One day, she suffered a paralysis attack, leaving her unable to move. She tried to answer her son's calls, but she couldn't move her hands. She wanted to speak to her son, to call him back, but her lips wouldn't move, and her tongue wouldn't work. She died the next day, helpless and alone. The son, unable to reach her, finally returned to Havenbrook. When he entered the house, he found his mother's lifeless body on the floor. Her eyes reflected her longing to see her son one last time, to speak to him. The son performed her last rites and left, never to return. The grand house was sold and eventually converted into the PG. But the elderly woman's spirit still roams the house. For her, it remains her grand home, and she waits for her son. Seeing strangers living in her house angers her. She doesn't understand why new people are here, living in her home. This anger is why the spirit possessed me, Emmy. She wanted to warn everyone that living here without her permission would have dire consequences. After hearing this, Father Thomas placed an amulet around my neck. I became normal and started speaking again, but I couldn't stop crying. I felt deep sympathy for the elderly woman. It felt like her experiences were my own. The sorrow and helplessness she felt overwhelmed me. The next day, I left the PG and moved to a new one. Many others also left, fearing they might experience what I had. John and his family still live in the PG. I don't know if the spirit still haunts the place or if it has found peace. New people continue to move into the PG, unaware of its haunted past. Thank you for joining me on this eerie journey through the haunted tales of Havenbrook. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more spine-chilling stories. Share your own supernatural experiences in the comments or send them to the email provided. We might just feature your story in our next video.